Hi, and welcome to this SOLIDWORKS tutorial for a candle lantern. For this tutorial, I have recreated a lantern, but I have left the windows empty for a new design. This tutorial will cover linear sketch patterns, thin feature extrusions, working from a DXF file, and mirroring bodies. I will also show how SOLIDWORKS Visualize was used for the renderings. You can download the plain lantern model and the DXF file needed for this tutorial from the blog description. To begin, have the lantern model open. As you can see, the lantern needs some design work on the windows that will cast a shadow when lit. Looking from the front, start a new sketch on the front glass pane here. Offset the glass pane inwards by 3 mm. Selecting the offset, change this to construction lines. Next, draw a hexagon going horizontal like this and change its dimension to 25 mm. Check the full construction box and use Move Entities to move it from its centre bottom point to the centre of the offset edge here. Delete the inner circle and open the Sketch Fillet tool. Selecting all of the hexagon, fillet its edges by 3 mm. Selecting the hexagon again, open the Linear Pattern tool. To change the direction of the linear pattern, you can use the degrees options here, or simply just drag the arrow's endpoint around. I want the pattern to go directly above like this, so just snap it into the line's midpoint. To change the distance between each point, input 28 mm here, leaving a 3 mm gap between the instances. Then add 6 more instances, leaving 7 so that there is a centre instance for the next pattern. Selecting all 7 hexagons, open Linear Pattern again. As you can see, the arrow for the pattern's direction is centered to a hexagon, which means I can just drag it to the diagonal midpoint here to get the pattern to follow the angles of the hexagon. Space the instances by 28 mm again, create 2 more instances so they go over the window pane offset sketch. To go the other way, under Y-axis, change the instances number to 2 so that the direction arrow appears. Drag the arrow's point to the opposite point here, and this time change the instance dimension to double that of the x-axis to 56 mm. If you don't, instances will overlap each other. Once the offset is covered, close the feature. Now this part is quite time consuming. You need to trim away all of the entities that are on the outer area of the offset window sketch. Make sure you get all of the overlaps, but ensure that you don't trim away any of the offset window, as you will need that next. You may also get this strange inner sketch as you trim away entities. You can just delete these. Next, we will be selecting all the hexagons we want to apply the thin feature to, which will create the pattern. So right-clicking onto the edge of the hexagon, you can select the chain and untick the full construction box. You can select multiple chains by holding Ctrl or Shift on your keyboard. For the hexagons around the edge of the window, you will need to close the profiles back up for the ones that you want for the feature. So selecting other hexagons, I'm leaving some 3 or 2.5 hexagons untouched to leave space for the bees. When it comes to the hexagons along the curved edge, I used the 3-point arc to trace over and close the shape. Once the sketch is done, go to Boss Extrude. Select the thin feature, and keeping the direction of the thin feature to one direction, change the thickness to 3 mm, and for the extrude thickness, change this to 1.5 mm. Untick Merge Result for now, as we don't want it merged into the lantern yet. Use Combine with Operation Type Add, and select all the thin feature bodies under the Solid Bodies list to merge them all together, separate to the lantern. The design is now ready to add the bee. I created a simple DXF for this. Selecting the window pane again, go to Insert, DXF/DWG, and open the bee decal. Untick the Import as Reference box here and click Next. Ensure dimensions are millimeters and select Finish. Once it comes in, close the sketch. I need to create all the bee parts separately, so sketching onto the front glass pane, select the bee body's entities and convert them. Extrude this by 1.5 mm. Then sketch onto the bee's body and convert both wing entities. Extrude by 1.5mm, flip in the direction and ensure that you have all the wing contours selected and unmerge the result. Repeat the process for the bee's head and antennas, ensuring they are 1.5mm, unmerged and are flush to each other. Next, fillet the top face of all the bee body parts by 1.5mm to look like this. I can now use Combine to add all the bee's bodies together. To move the bee into place, looking from the front view, use Move/Copy Bodies under Features. For this move, ensure the copy box is ticked, as we want a spare bee separate to copy for the lantern sides. Using the arrows, drag the bee into the space. To rotate the bee, open Move Bodies again and remember to untick the Copy Bodies box. Use the rotate wheel here and drag it to rotate the bee left to right. I need to ensure that the bee doesn't touch any of the honeycomb pattern. It must sit in between the honeycomb. You may need to use Move Bodies several times until you're happy with its position. Once the bee is in place, I need to add a bee trail to join it up to the honeycomb. So sketching onto the thin feature here, use the spline tool and starting from this centre point, draw up to the bee's outer edge in the centre and then create a small curved path onto the honeycomb. Don't make this too complicated or too sharp, otherwise the thin feature won't work. You can adjust it using the points or spline handles. Once you're happy, use Boss Extrude Thin Feature and change the thin feature to mid-plane by 3mm. When this preview appears, you will have to ensure that the end of the thin feature sits within the honeycomb extrusion and doesn't overhang. This could cause issues with the model later. If no preview appears, there may be an issue with your spline. Just simplify it or sketch it again. The Boss Extrude should be 1.5mm, with the direction flipped to be level with the honeycomb. Under the feature scope for Merge Result, select the hexagon thin feature, keeping the bee and lantern bodies separate. Use Move Bodies again, and with Copy selected, move a bee into another gap, and repeat the process again. Add another trail and merge it to the honeycomb. Move and copy a third bee. For this one, I allowed the bee's antennas to overlap the window, like parts of the honeycomb does. This bee will be joined to the lantern's door from here, making the bee's position even more sturdy. I add another trail from the bee and merge it again. With the bees all in place and the trails all attached, select the honeycomb face and fillet it by 1.45mm. I can now combine all the bees to the honeycomb to create one body. I now want to shell the back of the honeycomb design. This is to make the design look more realistic. The lantern has been created 1mm thick and shelled to look like metal. So if I shell the design, it will look like the design has been press formed. Hide in the front and back glass panels. Shell the back face of the body by 1mm. It should look like this. You can then just mirror the design over using the mirror feature. Check the bodies option and select the shelled body. Once it's mirrored over, use Combine with Add selected and combine the back design to the main lantern body like this. Then combine the front design to the lantern door. Remember to bring the glass back into view. Using the same sketch technique, offset the side window pane inwards by 3mm. I'm copying the same hexagon design using linear pattern, all spaced apart by 28mm, trimming away the excess sketch like before. Again, I need to turn some of the hexagons from construction to workable entities, only this time I'm selecting different sections of the design for the thin feature. Once I'm happy with the layout and there are some spaces for bees, create the thin feature with the same properties as the other, with the 3mm thin feature width and a thickness of 1.5mm off the glass pane. Remember to unmerge the result. Combine all the thin feature bodies to a single body to look like this. Use the original bee found here and use move/copy bodies to snap the bee onto the glass pane. We can use the constraints option here. This allows us to make the bee into place, selecting the back face of the bee and the glass pane. With the bee in place, I can move it into place with the move bodies. Add a trail and fill the other gaps just like before. Remember to merge the trails to the honeycomb, leaving the bees separate until the honeycomb face has been filleted by 1.45mm. Combine the bees and shell the back of the design. Mirror the finished design across the right plane. Combine and add the two honeycomb bodies to the main lantern body. Reapply the white appearance back onto the rest of the lantern by selecting the bodies and right-clicking into the appearance and attaching to selection. With the lantern design finished, I can open it in SOLIDWORKS Visualize to render. First, I'm adding a corner part for my design to sit in off the bottom plane. I'm applying a dark solid colour to it so that the lantern light shows up more. This will allow me to see what shadows my lantern casts. This would show up much better against a wall rather than on the floor due to the location of the candle light. To export it into Visualize, go to the tab here and select Export Advanced. Within Visualize, I can change the aspect ratio of the render camera to 16:9 to match my video ratio. The environment stretches to the camera, but to fill the back plate to the camera, go to Scenes, Back Plates, and selecting the softbox, scroll down to check the Fill Background box. To add my candle light, within the Scene tab, I can add a new area light. Change the light shape to point. You can change the size of your light using sphere radius. I need it to be the smallest that it can go. You can also change the colour of the light, the colour temperature from cool to warm, and the brightness of it. You can toggle the render modes to help your PC run more smoothly, especially for complex models. I use the transform options to move the light to sit on top of the candle flame. There are endless options to play with. You can change the glass transparency, which also affects reflectivity, or change the candle's wax colour, or even the colour of the lantern. Once I'm happy with the preview, I can render the lantern. Feel free to try different patterns to see what shadows you can create. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching.